Hey guys, how you doing? Anonymous here. We're going to be looking at setting up an SD card for the MiSTer FPGA. You start off by going over to the MiSTer FPGA's GitHub page, this wiki, and under to the right it has a setup guide right here. From this setup guide you download the latest SD card installer. We have that already set up. So you make sure your SD card is selected in this and you hit full install. Ask if you want to continue, you hit yes. You'll have a bunch of windows pop up here. And it may ask you if you want to format the disk. You just hit cancel. So after this installs, we're going to try the new updater. Now the updater, previously the only way to update the MiSTer FPGA was to copy over a script and hook up the MiSTer FPGA and run the internet script from that. But now there is an updater that is by the same person. So let's look at that real quick. So this updater is from the same person, Locatus73. So you can do two things here if you want to get your MiSTer up to date. You can copy over this update.sh into your scripts folder using a program like WinSCP, or you can download this new updater, which is only released a couple of days ago, and you basically download this and then unzip it, it'll create a folder, and you drag that folder over. That's what we're going to do here. So this is now my my exFAT partition that the MiSTer installer created. So let's drag over that updater here. So it creates a folder called update.PC. So you just drag that over to your root here. And then if you want to have a cleaner install and have all your game folders, because this will actually create all your game folders, what I recommend doing is creating a folder in here called games, and then you create a folder so it knows that there's already a game in there. So I know the NES core uses a folder called NES, so we'll create that. I'm just going to drag over any file to the NES folder so there's something in that folder. Alright, now that that's all set up, we just run the updater from the main Windows PC. So down here on Windows, update Win. There's a Linux command. You can also use your Mac to run this program. So this creates this this script, this command line script SSH, and it runs. And it's going to take a little while. It's going to create a full update here. So this will take a few minutes, but we'll let this run. While this is running in the background, I'm going to talk just quickly about SCP. So SCP is like an FTP protocol. This program right here, WinSCP, is what I use to transfer files to the MiSTer. So if you have the MiSTer hooked up to the internet, meaning either you have a Wi-Fi dongle configured or you have the Ethernet plugged in directly into the Ethernet port, you're able to SCP into the MiSTer and transfer files that way. That's a really easy way, and it's really fast. So I recommend this setting this up as well. And we'll show you how to access that as soon as the updater is all set up here. If you guys like this video and you like my content, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube and thumbs up, or follow me on Twitch or Twitter and all the other social media places. It's much appreciated. All right, so let's check out this this install that's happening here. So this is going and pulling all the latest cores from the different GitHub repositories. So it's downloading Neo Geo, the BK0011M, ColecoVision, Amstrad. We'll also download all the cheats, which is like Game Genie stuff. We'll download all the filters for like the upscaling. So yeah, it takes a few minutes here. We can also look at, I guess we can look at what the structure is going to look like once it's all set up here. So this is basically the files that I have set up to drag over. So this is what our folder structure will look like on the MiSTer, the exFAT partition here. So the arcade folder now, instead of having to make a dot folder and a dot ROMs, we have these new MRA files. So all the MR files are grabbed from the main updater. And then you have alternatives for like running different versions of ROMs, like the European or Japanese ROM. We have this. I think these are created by the retro-driven script that we run. But Jotega, like a separate Jotega file, separate Sega System 1, unofficial cores, and then the cores are actually all placed in here. So these are where all the arcade cores are running, and then the MRAs just link the MAME and HB MAME files to the cores with special instructions. There's sound here. Here's Journey sound. I think a new game just got sound support, so I'll have to get that file. And then your normal files here. All your computer cores will be in here. Your console cores, any backgrounds that you want to store on the card here, you can put in backgrounds, but you need to rename it menu.png for it to be able to be seen from the main MiSTer, which you're able to change by hitting F1 on the keyboard. Your config files, we have Doom. You can have a PBR Doom set up here. Games is where all your game folders will be, so this is where this will be created by the script, and you'll have to install and copy over all your dumped games in there and BIOSes and whatnot. Scripts is where all the .sh files are run. This is where you drag over the main updater. Also the retro-driven Arduino Boy and MAME setup. Your Doom, your Scum VM, and download fonts and etc. Or if you're using LLAPI, you'll drag over the script to get that going. And then the updater PC, that's what we're running right now. If you want to edit the main MiSTer settings, it's in MiSTer.ini, or you can also create a MiSTer _ lowercase alt.ini. You can have two different MiSTer INIs running, and they switch by hitting the middle and the right button on the IO board. If you hit the middle and the right button at the same time, it will switch over to alt. This is really handy for having a 720p profile with RGB and then like a 1080p profile with component. You're able to switch on the fly just by hitting those two buttons. When I created these two different alts, because I actually went to a hotel and I have my main MiSTer set up for 1080p, but this TV was only 720p, so I was able to just switch over and use the alt configuration for the MiSTer INI. So let's look at that real quick while the script is still running here. So in this, you're also able to access this after you run the update. You'll have an INI settings script you can run to change all this. But let's just look at this real quick. You have your YPBR settings, your composite sync settings, if you want volume control on the core. Yeah, and there's everything else in here. Your main resolution for your HDMI out. And you're also able to create like custom core configurations. So the Game Boy is one of the cores that let's cover that up. Actually, that's quite distracting, I'm sure. So the Game Boy is one of the cores that does not support dual output. So meaning, since I play on a PVM and I also capture to an HDMI, the Game Boy can either do one or the other. So normally it can only do HDMI. It doesn't really work with an analog output. But with this configuration, if you put this, also uncommented without these little semicolons here, you'll be able to use your scaler to down-res and downscale the image so that it works on the PVM. So I'll post this little INI setting you can put in your Game Boy if you don't care about having dual output, and then you'll be able to play Game Boy on your analog setup. So this is the MiSTer updater script is currently downloading all the cheats. That's why it looks like it's going crazy. It has to download every single cheat and extract it. These cheats need to be named the same thing that the actual ROM file is called. But these are all based on, I believe, the Smoke Monster ROM names. So as long as the names are the same, you'll be able to access the cheat from the main OSD that you can pull up by hitting the F12 on the keyboard or the middle button on the IO. Listening some Neo Turf Masters here. Such a fantastic Neo Geo game. Probably my favorite golf game. Alright, so when the updater is done, it will just close out the command window that it had. So let's look at the SD card now. So if we look, the MiSTer data here. Alright, so this is now our SD card. It created all the folders here. And I was trying to get it to create all the folders in the games folder, but it didn't. I must have set something up incorrectly. But anyways, we can manually drag stuff over the games folder. So let's drag anything that is a core specific game folder over to games. So we have the Altair, Amiga, Amstrad, AO 486, Apogee, etc. all the way up until C64. So we just drag that over to games. You can also, if you don't really care about the folder, how clean the folder is, you can just leave everything in here, and it would work just fine. Game Boy needs to go into games. GBA all the way up until Jupiter. Mac up into let's see, the strips. I have to apologize, I'm getting over a cold here, so I kind of a raspy voice. Sharp MZ all the way up until the updater. And then Vector all the way up until ZX81. Now, we need to double check this just in case, because if you do drag over the wrong folder, if you drag over your Linux folder or something like that, then the SD card will not work. Let's look here in games, make sure everything is good to go. Okay, it looks like it is. Alright, now I'm gonna just drag over, so we could boot this up in the HDMI and it'd be fine. I think it would spit out by default a 720p image, but just to make everything compatible with my setup, I'm gonna drag over my MiSTer INI setup and alt. But you don't have to do that. Your MiSTer should work right out of the default. So we're gonna eject this and put it in the MiSTer and load it up. You want to hit F1 to change that screen. That screen's a bit killer. So this is the new setup. So now we're able to organize and change everything through here. So the first thing I like to do is to go into this script. So if you see, we have the internet hooked up here. So that's our local IP address. In that WinSCP program we were talking about, let's look at that real quick. So you just put in the IP address that was listed, which is 192.168.0.127. Your username is root and your password is 1, and you just hit log on here. So this is the root of the SD card, and we can just get rid of those two things. Those are things that Windows creates, but aren't really needed. So this is the root. You can update stuff from here. You can drag over games here. Yeah, okay, so we'll go back to the MiSTer. We're gonna run update. It's gonna ask you if you sure you know what you're doing. You hit yes, bottom. Okay, from here, the first thing I like to do is to download the fonts. I think the font is here, right? Okay, I guess the font setup is not here yet. We will turn on fast USB polling. That gives you the 1 millisecond polling. So this changes some settings, and then it will do a reboot here. Now, if you're using a PVM, it will say if you see this, then you need to change some settings, but it's fine. You just have to your settings your HDMI capture still works, or your HDMI output still works here. Okay, so the next thing, so let's see, you want to set your time zone. If you look, it's actually 9:54 and it says it's 2:54. So you can set the time zone here, and that will set your local time zone, so everything's fixed there. If you're gonna set up Wi-Fi, you can do that here. Let's see the INI settings. So this is the INI settings. This is for changing all those things in the MiSTer.ini. Let's see, if you're playing off HDMI and you want the lowest lag setting, you're gonna want to go to this VSync adjust, and you want to set it to low lag. That paired with the low latency on the USB polling will give you the best playability, but this might also cause some havoc with your TV or with your capture. So for me, since I don't play off the HDMI, I just capture it, I do match core frequency or match display frequency. Now you see at the bottom there's a little bit of a description of what those things do. So the best compatibility. So for me as a streamer, I do this because that gives the best output. Let's see. You're just doing DVI mode, you can do that. Composite sync I want on for PVM compatibility. If you're using YPBR, so if you're using component, you can change that setting here. Direct videos, you can use a cheap HDMI to analog output dongle, like the HDMI to component, HDMI to RGB, and that will work right here. You just have to enable it. The volume control in your you want volume control on, that way you're able to, if you have a keyboard with volume up and down, you're able to control it within the core. Alright, I think that's all the stuff on here that I really changed. You just want to hit save on your way out. And that will reboot the MiSTer. Yeah, I wonder where the font download is. There's a script you can run for downloading fonts. I'll post a link to it in this video description here. Alright, let's just, and now I'm gonna run the, oh, I didn't save over the retro driven one. So let's FTP in here, and then let's copy over the font setting, and also the retro driven. So I'm just going to go over to WinSCP and relaunch that. So I'll go to my scripts folder here. We're gonna drag over the retro-driven script. The LLAPI updater that I use, and the fonts download. So that's it. And now we'll have those accessible in the MiSTer, or on the MiSTer. So the update retro-driven script, this will download all of the stuff you need to play arcade games. Take just a minute. This also grabs all the unofficial cores, which is nice. The Donkey Kong Jr., Gyrus, Rygar, the Jotego cores as well, that are public. If you are a Jotego patron, you have to manually drag over the Double Dragon and CPS1 betas until those go public. Once they go public, they'll be grabbed by this script. Oh yeah, there's a new Popeye core. Wonder if that's been added to grab. I don't think so. It would have grabbed it in the unofficial. So now the retro-driven script is done. We're gonna run the font script as well. So I copied that over. It looks like my font script is just a modified version of the main update. I think you can probably have your main update.ini have it so that it grabs the fonts once. I deleted my the defaults for now. The main update script. They now put the main. They have the arcade folder like I used to like it, or like I like it, or like it should be. So you don't have to set those settings anymore. So I just deleted my main update.ini. So this is having to do a full resync, it looks like. I hope it doesn't download the cheats and everything again. I think under the main update, let's look. I think under the main update, there's probably a way to, or an example update that downloads fonts. So let's look. They have examples here, right here. Yeah, so this is all I'm running. So I'm running the main update with this fonts ini. And all this does is say, grab this additional repository, which is fonts. It's still running. I'm not sure what's going on here. It is accessing the disk, though. I can look at the let's look at what other repositories are available. Oh yeah, so in my old update, and I had update cheats once and update Linux true, but now those are defaults now for update. I'm not sure if this is working, so that's probably why it's not included. You can always go and grab fonts yourself and put it into the fonts folder. Toasty! An offline, because I'm just recording this locally. Thanks, Mortal Floater, for the offline follow. But yeah, okay. So it looks like it was downloading the fonts. It just wasn't showing it because this is my newer font here that I prefer. Alright, I think that's everything. Oh yeah, if you're running LLAPI stuff, you can run this updater, which I use LLAPI stuff for my Gamer Pro. So this downloads, this goes and grabs everything. It is already a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but I wanted to make sure everybody felt comfortable with the initial SD card setup. Now there is something called a MiSTer like starter pack. I can't link to that, but it is on archive. You can drag that the contents of that folder over to your games folder, and that will give you all of the BIOS and starter files as well as boot ROMs. But you can also manually do everything yourself here. Looks like Pac-Man for some reason got grabbed into the main core, into the main directory. So let's fix that real quick. Where is it? Oh. What? There we go. So you can just move stuff over in your folder like that. Well, I think that's going to be it for me, guys. Actually, I'll just show that the arcade stuff works here. So if we go to arcade and say journey, since we ran the retro-driven script, it loads right up. That's going to be it for me, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped you kind of understand how to set up the SD card. And we'll see you soon. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe and thumbs up, and give me a follow on that Twitch to catch the streams when I go live. Thanks for watching, guys. Goodbye.